A young girl comes of age in a time where the Earth's rotation has drastically slowed down, and things are not as they used to be. New York Times best-selling author Karen Thompson Walker sits down with our own Becky Anderson to talk about the Age of Miracles in this week's edition of Authors Revealed.
Welcome to Authors Revealed. I'm Becky Anderson. I am so excited. One of my favorite books is now out in paperback. It's Karen Thompson Walker's The Age of Miracles. Where did the idea for this, the germ, the spark, begin for you?
The first idea came from something that I read about that really happened, which was, it was back in 2004, the earthquake that caused that huge tsunami in Indonesia. I read that that earthquake was so large that it affected the rotation of the planet. So after that, the 24-hour day was a few microseconds shorter. You think of the sun rising and setting as one of the most predictable and stable things in our lives, and the fact that we know what time it's going to happen each day. So anyway, the idea that it was in flux even by a tiny, tiny amount was, it was alarming and scary. But also I immediately started to wonder, what would happen if a much, much larger shift in our rotation ever took place. And so I decided to try writing a short story.
So was there any piece of research that you did for the book that really surprised you? That that really surprised you? Or, you know what? We're not far from that really happening.
Something that I learned early on, which was just by accident, was something about how it was about how long periods of light affect people. I was surprised to learn that is actually associated with a higher, at least in this one study that I read, a higher incidence of suicide,
which is in the book.
Yes, as opposed to darkness. Like I would think that it would be depressing to be in the winter in the dark.
So having this be your first book out in the world, what do you hope readers will take away from reading Age of Miracles?
Oh, that's a good question. I love to read stories and see movies that have to do with end of the world stories, and I think I have this idea that that I think there's sort of a perverse pleasure in reading stories where a lot of what we think of as ordinary life has been lost or is being lost, and I think it's because it has a way of making us then when we put the book down look around and be sort of a little more, I don't know, in awe or appreciative of how extraordinary just our ordinary, regular, and some maybe we might think boring lives really are. So if people have that reaction, and a few readers have mentioned, that they've had a similar feeling after reading my book, and that's one of the most sort of gratifying responses.
Wow, this is a great book. You all have got to read it. It's Karen Thompson Walker's The Age of Miracles. Back to you, Jen.
Thanks, Becky. If you're interested in the full interview with Karen Thompson Walker, visit our website at nctv17.com for a list of airtimes.